Hi, my name is Jim Kaufman, and my topic today is the continuing evolution of rights for gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender individuals in the United States. I have personally experienced several decades of this evolution, starting in high school in the 1990s and continuing through college, throughout my decades as an adult, and including my years at Chippewa Valley Technical College. The evolution of gay and lesbian rights in the United States is relatively unknown to most people, but the struggle has been ongoing for a century with no signs of an end. Throughout history, and including up until a few days ago, by the most recent news I've seen, gays and lesbians have been subject to persecution, torture, murder, and execution. These are not acts strictly by individuals committing crimes, but also state-sanctioned punishments against gays and lesbians simply because of who they are. In the early 20th century, most gays and lesbians were in hiding. It was something that was not talked about. As such, there was no such thing as gay and lesbian rights. Toward the mid-20th century, starting around 1950, there were more active groups promoting the rights for gays and lesbian individuals. This included the Mattachine Society, which was formed in 1950 according to the Gay and Lesbian Historical Society in San Francisco. There were many other secret clubs where people would go to meet. They would have to have passwords and knock on a door and reveal who they were, and you could only get in if you were known by other people. The American Psychological Association, during the time, in the mid-50s, 1960s, classified homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance, a mental illness. Throughout this time, gays and lesbians were considered security risks by governments. They were banned from federal employment. If they were employed by the federal government and they were found out, they could be placed in jail. Gays and lesbians were also the subject of numerous police raids and arrests at any gathering place they were at. In many states, they were actually banned by law from associating with other gay people or assembling in any social environment with more than 2 to 3 gay people. There were no such things as gay bars or social clubs or support groups. The 1960s were a turning point in the struggle for acceptance and equality. During the mid-1960s through the 1990s, society has taken a step back from persecuting gays and lesbians. Numerous gay and lesbian publications were developed, including The Advocate, Out Magazine, and many others. Several gay and lesbian legal organizations were formed to help promote and secure the rights of gays and lesbians, including Lambda Legal and the Human Rights Campaign. In 1969, there was a turning point for gays and lesbians, especially in the state of New York. The Stonewall Inn was a gay and lesbian tavern or bar where many people were known to hang out. The Stonewall was subject to numerous police raids. Homosexuals were beaten and tortured, stomped on. Now, I requested audience feedback on this issue, asking, did anybody know about the Stonewall riots or the protests that evolved from the riots? Not one person responded saying that they knew anything about it. Since Stonewall, there have been numerous liberation parades and pride parades, including a major one by the Mattachine Society in 1970. In the 1980s, many states began passing laws specifically excluding gays and lesbians from any rights that might evolve from government. This includes same-sex marriage, which is banned by statute in many states. However, in 2014, the state of Massachusetts legalized gay and lesbian marriage, and within 6 years, 6 more states also legalized it. Because many states were legalizing it, but many states had also banned it, this set up a perfect avenue for the Supreme Court to review the issue. Also during this time, many states began to repeal, or at least stop enforcing, their laws which prohibited gay and lesbian individuals from having intimate relations with each other. In 2003, the Supreme Court ruled in Lawrence v. Texas that gays and lesbians had the same right as heterosexual individuals to form lasting relationships and to do whatever they wished behind closed doors. The state of Wisconsin was actually one of the first states to ban discrimination based upon sexual orientation. This occurred in 1982, Wisconsin was a forerunner for many other states' laws. Also throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the issue of HIV and AIDS came about, and in many people's minds, HIV and AIDS are linked specifically to gay people. The gay people are to blame for the disease. This led to a lot more protests, a lot more riots, and violence against gays. By the time I graduated high school in 1992, gay and lesbian rights were finally beginning to receive official recognition from governments. The United States military, which did not allow gay and lesbian members to serve openly, first passed what they called the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Under this policy, under President Clinton, the first President Clinton, not the upcoming one, the military would allow gay and lesbian service members to serve only as long as they did not disclose that they were gay and lesbian. In essence, keep it in hiding and we'll let you stay. However, this law was overturned, and now gay and lesbian members are allowed to serve openly and proudly. In addition, the federal government in the 1990s passed the Defense of Marriage Act, which prohibited or did not require states to recognize if another state had passed a law recognizing marriage between same-sex couples. That law has also since been repealed or overruled by the United States Supreme Court, which ruled that states must recognize marriages performed by other states involving same-sex couples. Also in the 1990s, it was not all a positive and rosy experience for gays and lesbians. For example, the issue of Matthew Shepard, who in 1997 was brutally beaten, tortured, and left to die hanging from a fence in Wyoming. He did die of his injuries and the exposure to the cold during that time. Another example would be Billy Jack Gaither down in Texas, who was also beaten and murdered simply because he was gay. However, there's been a positive upturn in the rights of gays and lesbians throughout this time. A lot of this is due to major media exposure, including the movie Brokeback Mountain, which was a groundbreaking film, and also the television experiences of comedians and actresses like Ellen. Throughout this time, states have been granting gays and lesbians the rights to have civil unions and eventually marriage. However, despite more than 75 years of struggle, today's fight for equality is far from over. In today's world, even though the Supreme Court has ruled that gay marriage is legal throughout the country, many states are passing laws restricting that right, or saying that clerks and judges don't have to marry gay couples if they firmly believe and have a belief that it will violate the rights of the clerk or the judge to marry the gay people. A prominent example of this is Kim Davis, a clerk from Kentucky, who took her case through the federal courts and lost at every turn. States have also begun passing what they call religious freedom or religious restoration and protection acts, which state that if your religion states that you don't have to believe in or support gay marriage, that then you have a right to discriminate against gays and lesbians and not serve them in bakeries, restaurants, or any other form of business. These acts, however, have generated a lot of backlash from major companies and other government officials who have ruled that it is illegal to discriminate against gays and lesbians, particularly in light of the Supreme Court ruling that legalized gay marriage. Despite the advancement of rights, attacks against gays and lesbians continue. For example, in 2016, a gay couple in Atlanta, Georgia, had boiling water poured upon them by the boyfriend of one of the man's mother. He then claimed that his religion did not allow him to support gays and lesbians, and therefore it was his right to attack them. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, attacks on gays and lesbians have risen sharply in the last 10 years. And in fact, there are many groups out there, official groups, that have been anti-gay and continue their activities. However, many people don't follow these things. Nobody knows about them. The common man or woman or child and including students here at Chippewa Valley Technical College, have no idea of the history of gay and lesbian rights in the United States and no idea where it's going. So I would like you to think, how does the struggle for gay and lesbian equality have an impact on the lives of people you know and care for?